If there's anyone in showbiz who doesn't need an introduction, it's Steve Martin. From being one of the top stand-up comedians of the 1970s to one of the most comedic actors of his generation to being an award-winning musician and writer, Martin has carved out a career that can only be admired with awe. And yet he's had a pattern of hitting a peak in his career only to call it quits and try something new. And he's also been coaxed out of retirement a few times. If nothing else, Steve keeps us all guessing. But if his recent remarks are to be believed, it seems his latest project, Only Murders in the Building, on Hulu, will be his last. He said that whenever the show is finished, he doesn't plan to pursue anything more in the world of TV or film. Join Facts First as we present Steve Martin is saying goodbye to acting with his final role. Martin's first retirement. Steve Martin is no stranger to a path that includes reaching incredible heights in a creative field and then hanging it up while he's at the top. He first achieved superstardom as a stand-up comedian in the 70s. In many ways, he revolutionized the form. His shtick of ultra-heady ideas combined with lowbrow slapstick was something the world hadn't seen before. He also incorporated costumes, music, juggling, and other elements to his show that most comedians didn't dare to. Early on, he challenged the conventions of the boundaries of a stand-up show by regularly interacting with the audience as they left the building, telling them more jokes, and sometimes even suggesting they all go to another venue. Martin tells of a story of how he brought the 300 people who had been at his show one night across the street to a gig of a jazz guitar player. He did note that as his crowds grew bigger, this type of thing grew much harder. Martin's stand-up career elevated to the point where he was filling arenas with adoring fans. He was the biggest name in comedy and charting on the Billboard charts with recordings of his shows. And one day, at the top of his game, he decided that was enough. He quit doing stand-up and hasn't really gone back since. Of course, this retirement wasn't simply so he could go off and live the rest of his days out of the spotlight. He simply wanted to pivot to his next creative endeavors. Steve's next retirement. Martin then set out to become a celebrated writer and actor. He put out years of memorable movies, books, and plays, and became regarded as one of the greatest comedic minds and performers of his time. He starred in movies ranging from The Jerk, The Man with Two Brains, and Three Amigos to LA Story and Father of the Bride. He also became a prolific writer, penning essays for The New Yorker, plays like the award-winning Picasso at the Lapine Agile, and his esteemed autobiography, Born Standing Up. The latter is considered essential reading for anyone interested in comedy. So he easily could have kept going along that path, writing books, plays, essays, and screenplays while simultaneously appearing in films and entertaining audiences. But as with his stand-up career, he decided to pivot careers again. So he essentially quit acting. One of the big reasons for this was his renewed interest in bluegrass music. Martin has long been an excellent banjo player, and at one point, banjo legend Earl Scruggs asked Steve if he'd play on an upcoming album. This gave Martin the confidence to pursue music in a more focused way. He formed a band, the Steep Canyon Rangers, and has toured with and recorded with them for years now. He has since won many Grammys for his work and was also one of the creators of the hit musical Bright Star. Steve gets coaxed out of retirement. Now, before you get too excited, we don't mean that someone has convinced Steve Martin to start doing stand-up again. Though it could be argued he's been doing stand-up again since 2016, when he began touring with fellow legend Martin Short. It's more of a vaudevillian act that feels more like a revamped version of Laurel and Hardy, rather than a tried-and-true stand-up routine, but if you're a Steve Martin fan, you'll take what you can get. And if you're familiar with the hit show Only Murders in the Building, then you know Steve is back in the acting game. Reportedly, Martin was at a party a few years back with some other notable actors in their older years. They were lamenting the fact there were very few legit projects ever created for actors in their 70s and up. A producer there casually suggested Martin be the one to fix the problem by writing something specifically for actors of that generation. This prompt caused Martin to start coming up with the idea about older people investigating murders. And according to Martin, he had a sudden realization he would actually make sense as one of the leads. Later, in 2019, he was convinced by his agent to take a meeting with Dan Fogelberg, who had recently produced the hit show This Is Us. Towards the end of the meeting, Martin mentioned the idea he'd been toying with about senior citizen detectives. At that point, Martin knew he wanted it to take place in a New York City apartment building. Fogelberg immediately loved the idea. As the show started coming together, Martin was convinced to have one of the leads be a younger person, and this role eventually went to Selena Gomez. And as things kicked into gear, Martin had three primary demands: that Martin Short would be the other lead, that it would all be filmed in New York City, and that he'd be finished filming each night by around 6 p.m. to see his family. The first two happened, though the 6 p.m. request didn't always work out. But seemingly out of nowhere, Martin had gone from retired from acting to being the lead on a TV series of his own creation. Before we tell you more, be sure to give this video a like and subscribe to Facts First if you haven't already. Is this his final acting gig? Clearly, Steve Martin has a long history of retiring at the top, and he also has a history of coming back once he's retired. So it's tricky to know what he'll do after Only Murders in the Building finishes its run. The second season is currently airing, and there's been no indication how long it'll run. However, Martin has flat out said that when the show is over, he doesn't plan to seek out more jobs on TV or in movies. He said he's not interested in cameos either. In an interview, Martin joked that a studio movie with him as the lead would be a huge box office failure. He even hates the process of taking meetings in Hollywood, saying that during a lunch, he'll feel like the other person is excited about working with him, but that he'll never hear from them again. He said, quote, "The mystery is gone. You realize you're just a couple of boring guys." So it looks as if for the time being, this show will be Martin's last. And at the same time, fans of the legendary comedian will hold out hope that the right project will come around and give him the inspiration he needs to pick things back up again. Steve's life outside of show business. One of the many reasons why Martin doesn't mind the thought of retiring again is that he's very happy with his home life. After a long marriage to actress Victoria Tennant, the two divorced in 1994, but in 2007, Martin married New Yorker staffer Anne Stringfield. Then 5 years later, the two welcomed a daughter. Martin says he's enjoying home life as much as he ever has, and one of the best aspects of retirement is that he has plenty of time to spend with his family. Stringfield is 26 years younger than Martin, but that hasn't deterred them from having a wonderful relationship with each other and their daughter. Martin was 67 when his daughter was born and is loving fatherhood. So much so that the thought of leaving New York for months at a time to go film a movie is wholly unappealing to him. So it makes sense the comedic legend isn't going to actively look for that kind of work anytime soon. Now it's time to hear from you. What's your favorite Steve Martin movie? Let us know in the comment section below. And before you go, make sure you give this video a like and subscribe to Facts First if you haven't already. Click the bell icon to stay updated on all our latest content. By the way, if you haven't joined Facts First as a member yet, be sure to look below this video and click the join button. By becoming a paid member of Facts First, you'll get access to exclusive video content that you won't find anywhere else. This includes some of our more mature content that isn't suitable for public audiences, which includes topics like Hollywood actresses who posed for Playboy and some of the steamiest moments in movie history. Plus, you can enjoy these videos completely ad-free. Our biggest fans will notice they also get badges next to their name when they leave comments on our videos. We pay special attention to comments from our members, and so do other viewers. So if you want exclusive content from Facts First or inside access to discussions with other community members, click the join button to get started for just $4.99. There are hours of members-only videos waiting for you, with new videos added every month. And we're actively working on bringing even more features to help fans like you connect with other members and get more of your favorite content.